Welcome to Education Perspectives. I am your host, Liza Holland. This is a podcast that explores the role of education in our society from a variety of lenses. Education needs to evolve to meet the needs of today and the future. Solving such huge issues requires understanding. Join me as we begin to explore the many perspectives of education.
Today, we're excited to have Marj Atkinson on the podcast. Marj received her Master of Library Science from Texas Women's University in 2012 as a true non-traditional grad student. She is an academic success coach specializing in personalized support for non-traditional graduate students and research solutions for authors, faculty, small businesses, and nonprofits. She leads engaging workshops, including resource organization, literature reviews, AI best practices, and market research tools. With a background spanning libraries, financial services, IT, and nonprofits, Marj is known for helping people find exactly what they need. So if you still haven't found what you're looking for, ask Marj. So Marj, welcome to Education Perspectives. So glad to have you.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, let me kick you off with our 30,000-foot question. Why do you think that we as a society invest in education?
It is very important that everybody be educated for government reasons, for society, there's so many countries where women aren't educated and they don't contribute to society very much. So it just helps to have good education, whatever level, but preferably, in my opinion, at an academic level, so that you can have a good profession and contribute to society and, make money and pay your bills and all of the things. Education, no matter at what level, is very important just to have a decent society run and have democracy is really the best way I can think of it. Is it contributes to a thriving democracy as opposed to some countries where that is maybe not the case.
Absolutely. So you were a non-traditional grad student. Tell us what drew you to that later education.
So when I got my degree a long, long time ago in German, and I always wanted to go to library school because my mother was an English teacher. Her mother was a librarian. I never knew her. I was named after her. She died before when my mother was a teenager, so I never met her. My dad had our whole entire wall in our dining room with books, and he organized them all by Dewey Decimal. So he wrote the little Dewey Decimal number in the book. So it's like I cannot avoid the fact that I love being a librarian. So I wanted to do that after undergrad, but then I got married and had a kid and life happened and that just didn't happen. So I took a pause, but I started out this is a long story. So I started out in IT and in health services and financial services and other places that I worked. And then I took about a 10-year break to be a stay-at-home mom and started volunteering in my daughter's school libraries. And I was like, oh yeah, this is really what I love. This is really what I want to do. So I did that until she graduated. I actually worked in a school library at a high school, which I really loved. I didn't expect to love working around high schoolers, but it was really good. There's nothing against high schoolers. It's just some people have an impression about them. But I loved working in the school library, learning a lot from the librarian that was there. She was really passionate about teaching kids how to study, how to find reluctant readers, how to find books that they were really interested in and things like that. So she was really good. And then when my daughter graduated, I left the library to find a better paying job because I was just an aide, not, just a lowly aide in the schools. And I found a job at a nonprofit as a research manager. And they had a tuition and reimbursement program and put me through school. They said they would, let me go to library school. And then they wanted to do more research there in the organization. And so that's what I did. And so in 2012, I got my library degree after 3 years of doing an online program through Texas Women's University. So it was the easiest school I've ever been in. I mean, all my undergrad was more of a struggle, but it was just like, this is what I was meant to do. So it took a bit, but I got there.
You were doing what you love. It's amazing how it's easier when everything aligns for you. That's great. That is great. So now you are actually working with some non-traditional grad students and whatnot. Tell us a little bit about maybe some of the challenges that you see that non-traditional grad students have and what kind of spaces are you trying to fill?
They, like me, they had a family. My daughter was in school. Actually, we started college probably the same year. And so they have a family, they're working full time, they want to get a better education, maybe get an advanced degree or two of some sort to then advance their career. So, but there's just the juggling of family and work and school, and it's overwhelming. And when you get to grad school, I like there's no crying in grad school. I mean, they assume you know a lot of things, and a non-traditional student, especially even international students, which I kind of lump in with that because it's a big hurdle to come and try to learn something in your not native language and to try to do study. It's bad enough doing it in your native language. It's difficult. So they don't really know what they're doing. The programs are supposed to be training them how to do research and how to do a literature review and all the things they need to be doing to write and come up with their research project and eventually do their dissertation or their capstone. And some schools, I think, do it better than others as far as all of that training. The online schools I'm finding are not as well sourced with staff and librarians to help with that. So the non-traditional students I've worked with have just always just feel like they're at a loss. And basically the attitude is, well, you're in grad school, figure it out. You should already know this stuff. So, which is unfortunate. So when I started my business, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do because I had gone through a couple of layoffs. And so I'm like, let me just see about starting my own business. And I was at a networking event and met a woman who was a professor in an online university. And when she heard that I was a librarian, she was like, oh my gosh, you need to work with grad students, especially online. And a lot of schools have online programs, even though they have physical campuses. But she's like, they really need help with writing and citing and researching and understanding how to do all of that because they really don't know how to do it. And even though they may get a course on it, it's foreign to them because maybe it's been a while since they've been in school. I mean, one of my students hasn't been in school in 20 years, and maybe 20 years ago, they didn't even have databases, or possibly, likely. So yeah, it's a big challenge. So yes, there are academic libraries. Yes, there are advisors in these grad programs, but clearly the students aren't getting what they need. And there are a lot of people like me out there. There are dissertation services. I'm not necessarily one of those because some people will go and have them write their dissertation for them. That's not ethical. And I don't know why you would do that. You have to defend your dissertation. You need to, do the research. But there are a lot of people in support roles like this out there, but they're just not really well known. I've talked to several kind of who do similar things than I do. And, there are places online that have little programs like on Facebook and stuff. There's lots of groups out there. But I think there's a gap in the schools aren't aware that we exist. And those of us who do this service have a challenge in getting the attention of the schools to say, hey, I can help your students beyond what they're getting, and so there's that.
Always challenges to overcome there, but it sounds like you've got a good solution to a pain point for a lot of these folks. And you mentioned that you, when we talked before, that you are also supporting some faculty members, maybe, and some support for book writing, that sort of thing as well.
So actually, when I first started my business back in 2019, I was doing it part-time and I was still working at a community college library and kind of doing both of those part-time. And one of my first clients was a faculty member in an online school, but he needed to write a paper for an upcoming conference. And he's like, I don't have grad students to help me. So there's another problem. Not all faculty who need to continue to stay published and present at conferences and things like that have the grad students there to help them. And he's like, and I don't have time. So can you help me write a literature review on this topic? And then, it's going to be presented. It was actually for a conference that was happening in March of 2020. So I started in like 2018, 2019. We were writing on this literature review. It took us a while to get it all worked out. And then 2020 came, the conference got canceled. And I was really disappointed because I wanted to see him present it. But, that's what happened. But it was a really great experience. And I haven't worked really with faculty since then. But it was a really good learning experience for me and to understand the needs of faculty as well. And postdocs, everybody needs to publish or perish. They may not have the time or the resources or the help. And depending on the school, technically the librarians aren't supposed to help. I know they do, but they're not really there to help the faculty with their research and finding sources. They're there to serve the student. I think it really depends on the school and the staffing and all of that. Yeah, so there's a need for that as well. And once again, I don't know that faculty or postdocs or anybody at that level realize there are people like me out there that can help them with that.
Exactly. That whole publish or perish piece is a real challenge for faculty members and postdocs, as you mentioned. It it is a tough world to live in, I tell you what. So a huge wrench was thrown into all of this with the advent of AI.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's like, wow, okay. So what do we say to those who are like, oh, now AI can do all this stuff for me?
Right. So when AI has really not been around, it's only been a couple of years since it's really been in the forefront of everybody. I'm sure it's been around before that, but like since the public has been using the chat models and things like that. When it first came out, and I think 2023 was when I first became aware of it. And I went to a conference at a University of Texas, Dallas, and they had the computer science faculty there. And they described AI as like an 8-year-old sitting in a room full of adults trying to make sense of all of the conversation. I think it's still that to a degree. It's gotten a lot better since 2023, but it doesn't get it right. It's really helpful for a lot of things, like looking up things or helping you wordsmith or helping you brainstorm and things like that. There are tools out there now that are coming out that are academic scholarly databases, but they're mostly open access, which is great. It helps you sort things it kind of helps you look at things by subject and things that are similar. So you can sort and find similar articles and things like that. But it will also pull in just the abstracts of a lot of other articles, which still means you need to go in to a library database through your school and access it that way to get what you need. So it is helpful to that degree, but it's still not the end all be all. One of my students early on used chat because I understand you're a non-traditional student. You want to take shortcuts where you can. You don't have time for all of this. But so she was using chat, not realizing that it makes stuff up. So like early on, Chat GPT, it probably still does, but it maybe has gotten a little bit better. But it would, just generate these scholarly resources. It looked like a valid one with a real author and an article name and a journal name and all of that. And so she came to me and she was like, I can't find these sources. Can you help me? And I looked up a couple. I'm like, did you use chat? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, no, don't do that. It makes stuff up. It's hallucinating is the word for it. But
yep.
Yeah, it's not, it doesn't. And I think still now it'll still to maybe some degree, I haven't tried it much, but I still think a lot of the models, at least now they're starting to cite their sources. So they will show you where they found them. But at that point, it was just saying, here's an article in this topic. And it should, I didn't even pull up an article. It just gave them a resource. So I'm not quite sure what they were doing with that, unless it was a fake resource, which it could have been. It could have been a fake document with the whole citation and everything, and which did not exist. So, I mean, we've heard that lawyers have gotten into trouble with that early on and still maybe are with using the chat models.
And, I think that using Chat GPT, it's really just a tool like anything else, right? I mean, it's like computers replace the card catalog, but that doesn't mean that you don't have the knowledge to understand what it is you're really looking for. And to give it really good prompts, you have to know what you want and what you're looking for. So it's that whole understanding your topic well enough to be able to ask good questions. And I think that that's so foundational to research in general, is that.
Exactly. Yeah.
really knowing your topic well enough to be able to pull and go, yeah, okay, this is an article on XYZ, but it's not relevant to my thesis. So I don't need to cite that in my lit review, right?
Right.
Tell me about your thoughts and your experiences so far on AI and academic integrity. A lot of the education world is still in the panic mode about ChatGPT and wanting to ban it and this and that and the other. What are your thoughts?
I hesitate to say this, but I will say it anyway. I like to compare it to safe sex. The students are using it anyway. So let's give them effective ways and tools to do it. And it sounds crass, but I mean, it is a tool. They need to understand how to use it and not just go out there and willy-nilly just use it and say, okay, here, chat wrote this for me. And I mean, I've heard, because I'm in a lot of library groups and stuff, and we talk about this all the time. And don't copy and paste it directly, because, when chat, you ask it a question, it says certainly, and then it goes into the response and they literally copy the whole thing. And you see certainly as part of your, yeah. So don't do that. And always check what it is that chat is giving you. And yeah, it sounds great, but if it is citing a source, you think you're saving time, but in the long run, you really need to double check everything. So you may end up spending as much time double checking what chat has, even though the wordsmithing sometimes sounds really great, and that's fine, but you still need to vet everything that it says to make sure that's really what it said and where it came from. And I think it is helpful now now that it's starting to give the citations. And in Chat GPT, I think you can ask it for citations. It didn't start doing that automatically, but I use Perplexity a lot. There's some other tools that will automatically just cite. And now there's a scholarly version, I think, in Perplexity, which you can click and it will be more scholarly and kind of help with that. But still, once again, it is a tool, and you still need to make sure it's saying what you want it to say, or what's really accurate.
Absolutely. So one of the things that you and I were talking about is kind of this lack of pipelines in so many professions, from K-12 up into higher ed. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I used to do some market research for a client who works with a lot of associations, like with tax professionals or healthcare finance or pretty much anything. And all of these associations are kind of screaming that there is no pipeline. Like for CPAs, there is no pipeline. I mean, students, there's not effective pipeline, but they're kind of concerned. They're a lot concerned because, we need CPAs like in the IRS and at the government level and for businesses and for just, people that need their taxes done. They may teach them math, they may teach them accounting, but maybe that's not part of their regular core course in K-12. And then if they're not even aware that those can lead into maybe getting a CPA and then going into doing everything that CPAs do. And they don't just do taxes. I don't know enough about what all CPAs do. I just know they do a lot more than just taxes, but they know the ins and outs of everything. And it's important to have those professionals out there. And what are we going to do if we don't have them? The same with a lot of other professions, even in healthcare, depends on the certain things that they're, and the AI is, I think, replacing some functions, but there's a lot of things that people aren't learning necessarily about healthcare to go and do that. Maybe they do some technical kind of courses when they're in high school or something like that to learn about being in the healthcare or in a tech kind of position or whatever. So I think as we were talking, we've kind of been in this model of K through 12 for centuries, maybe. This is the 3 R's, and then, more than that. And so social emotional learning, which is important to all of that, whether that's not really necessarily related to a pipeline, but that's starting to be trigger phrase, like people think it's not important, which is so important with the development of children as they learn. And that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, I think there's a lot of professional positions that we have nowadays. Like when I got my degree in German, which I thought I wanted to do other things with it, I ended up working in a bank. I mean, so it had nothing to do with my degree. And there's a lot of that. You go through school and you go to college and you just get a degree in something. And a lot of times it's not really specialized in what it is you really want to do because you probably don't know what you want to do or what your skills are or whatever. And then you just end up, well, I've got a college degree. I'm going to work in this little clerical position in a institution somewhere. And I don't know, it seems like in other countries, they do internship or whatever the word I'm not thinking of, but the apprenticeships, yes, where they learn the trade, whether it's a trade or a profession. I think they do a better job of that in other countries where you're really getting some skills and knowledge that you can use in a profession as you go, instead of just going, well, I'm going to go to college because I'm told I have to, or even community college, which is great. And then that can get you either continue on to college or get you into a trade and get to work immediately. And I love that community colleges offer that. In my area, we're really trying to focus, the community colleges are really focused more on a lot more on the trades than they used to be, which gets the people out quicker and getting into the workplace faster.
Well, I think the calculus has changed a little bit with the incredible expense of higher education today. The last statistics I saw was that 74% of jobs will not require a 4-year degree, but it will require some sort of post-high school types of education. And so that's a lot. I mean, that's a huge piece of our population that is not necessarily going to have to go on for a 4-year degree. And I love the work that's happening in things like the CAPS network out of Kansas City that is profession-connected learning. Really, developing pathways where students can understand really what it's like to be a CPA, what it's like and what is required to be an architect or a healthcare professional, all these types of things, and making those touches earlier so that students can make better decisions going into college, especially with the amount of investment you have to make in making that happen. So, yeah.
Yes, expense is a big factor. Just from the time I got, my husband and I went to college to when my daughter went to college, and the massive increase in tuition. And well, she went to a private school, but even in the public schools, it was just way more expensive on a cost of living basis. It seemed like it was way more expensive. It just didn't just gradually go up with everything else. And I have not looked to see why it's become so expensive. I have not done the research, but I'm sure there are many factors and reasons why. But
Indeed. But I think it does call for some changes and adjustments, like you were talking about. So absolutely. So you, like myself, are a young in spirit entrepreneur with starting this new venture that you have. Tell us about some of the challenges that you faced.
Never run my own business. There's just a huge learning curve. I'm very fortunate in small businesses out there. There are so many free resources, and there are a lot of people who want to help you with that as well, and you can pay for that as well. But like, I started out with the Small Business Development Center, and they had a really great counselor and kind of helped me get started and figure out what all I could do. We brainstormed a lot of things. We finally came up with the name of my company, Ask Marj. And just that was really helpful at the beginning. And they're still helpful. There are organizations like SCORE, retired executives who mentor entrepreneurs and small businesses on how to run a business and all the basics of how to do a business plan or how to budget, or do you need to hire an accountant and a lawyer? I mean, just all of the things that you don't even think about. I've worked in corporate or education the majority of my life, so I really had no clue. Still feel like 6 years in, there's still a lot of things I don't know, because you're working in your business and trying not to spend a whole lot of time learning about all of these things that you need to know, but there are professionals for that, and hopefully you can pay some of them to help you do like a CPA and stuff to do my taxes, because that's not my forte. So it's just a big learning curve on how to balance your time, how to find clients. And that's been a big struggle for me, how to figure out how to find like student clients, how to get the attention of the schools or the faculty. I've been trying this for 6 years and still don't have number of students that I would like to have. So that's where, like you mentioned earlier, and I forgot to talk about, authors have found me. I'm listed on the National Archives as an independent researcher, and I live near the Fort Worth National Archives facility. So I've gone there a couple times to do research for people that are looking for records or the authors that are looking for information. I can do it online too. Some of the records are available online, but there's a need for research, and I'm happy to do that, but just trying to find clients. And fortunately, authors have found me that way, which is great, but it's weird. I haven't done a whole lot of overt marketing for any of the services I provide. A lot of times they just find me somehow, and it seems like I can't rely on this magical ability for people to find me. There's got to be a more strategic way to get clients, but at the moment, that's how it's worked. But yes, and I go to a lot of networking events, and I'm sure that will pan out because that's important to network and people know what you do, and so you know how networking goes. So
absolutely. And see, here you're a guest on a podcast. That's another great way to market.
Exactly. Because I met somebody at an event who referred me to you, and that's how that works. So yes.
I love it. I love it. Oh, such a great conversation here today, Marj. I like to ask all of my interviewees this final question as well. Given the state that you're talking about, I mean, so much of what's going on in research with AI and everything's in flux, what would you like decision makers to know?
Well, it's great. Yeah, AI is not the panacea. It is not the end all be all. It is a tool, as we discussed. But you need to rely on people and their brains and their ability to have critical thinking around everything. And I think sometimes that's at a loss. I think there's been some news about, even as we use AI, that it's kind of screwing with our brain a little bit. And I admit, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's kind of like it's addictive sometimes to just go there and ask it a question. But it's important that we still work with people and, use their abilities and their abilities to think and do things and use their talents and skills. That's important from, school all the way through a career. That's why we're here as humans. That's what we do. We can't rely on the machines to do everything. It's great for some automated tasks or whatever, but you still, at the end of the day, you still need people to use their talents and skills and education and brains to do what they need to do.
Good answer. Good answer. I wanted to tell our listeners that Marj has given a great listing of some neat kind of book shout outs and podcasts and websites, including hers, that I'm going to drop in the show notes. So please make sure to kind of check that out there. And Marj, tell us, if a listener is looking for some research help, where can we find you?
My website is Ask Marj, AskMarj. It's a little unusual.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I have a professional and a personal account on Facebook. So really all of those. I'm not on Twitter or any of the variations of that at the moment. But I think where I am is fine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for those of us who know and appreciate how much this background in research is, I hope that you find lots of good clients.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this conversation.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us, and we'll look forward to getting your interview posted.
Okay, thanks. Have a good one.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Education Perspectives. Feel free to share your thoughts on our Facebook page. Let us know which education perspectives you would like to hear or share. Please subscribe and share with your friends.